Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. My host JP John Paz with me today. Very special guest, former NWA Florida heavyweight champion, tag team champion. He is, of course, from WCW, ECW, WWF. He's been everywhere. Mr. TNA as well. Mr. Buck Quartermain. Buck, welcome to two-man power trip. How you doing?
What's up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? How we doing tonight?
Very good. What's going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Man, just been grinding, out making swimming pools look a lot better. That's about it, man. Lots of golf.
Nice. Anything wrestling related anymore or no?
Nah, not so much. Just kind of best thing for me to do is kind of stay away from it after all the surgeries I've had the last 5 years.
How many surgeries have you had?
I had four major surgeries. I had my lower back fused. I had my right shoulder replaced, and I had both my knees replaced. 4 major surgeries in 5 years.
Wow. All from wrestling and bumping.
Well, I don't know about wrestling. I mean, I started playing sports when I was I think I was 9. Started going to the boys club when I was 6. So I've been running around beating up this body for, 50 years. So it's an accumulation of everything.
And football too, right?
Yeah. A lot of football, a lot of basketball, a lot of baseball, a lot of, semi-pro softball, just anything. I just enjoy playing, competing.
Now, as far as like wrestling, do you still watch wrestling? Like, are you still invested in it or no?
My stepson, Brian Adams' son, Royce Adam, he's been wrestling for about 4 years. So I'm still involved in it. I just don't go to it as much. I got a couple buddies of mine that are still working. God forbid them. Scoot Andrews is, same age as I am, 56, and he's still out there grinding. He does probably a show every maybe 1 or 2 years. I think he's getting ready to do a show here in May. But my thing is I can't really be around it because it's almost like a drug for me. You know what I mean? If I'm around it, I'm going to do it. So I just try to stay away from it. I'm a recovering addict of wrestling.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are. You can't stay away.
No, I was a hooker for wrestling, man. There's many nights I did it for free. So I enjoyed it. I had a hell of a run. I loved every minute of it, but it was hard. It was hard business to be in.
Now you wrestled pretty much everywhere, right? I mean, any major promotion, you wrestle for them.
I pretty much, yeah. I mean, I've never had a wrestling contract with any particular company. I did a bunch of enhancement work early in my career. I did enhancement work with WWF, WWE for almost 20 years. Worked enhancement for WCW. I was off and on to Japan for, I think, 11 years. I did loops with ECW when they would come to Florida. I've been all over the world with, independent companies that would get spots in South America, Germany, everywhere. Germany. I couldn't tell you all the places I really have been. I've been to Saudi Arabia, been to Aruba, so pretty much every state in the United States. So it was nice. It was a good run,
Well, Saudi, WWE runs there now all the time.
Yeah, so we literally actually Chris Chavez met a prince. I don't know where he met him at. He met a prince, and the prince bought a show and flew over 20 wrestlers and pretty much flew over a company. And me and the gentleman by the name of Freedom Rider, Mike Sullivan, we ended up having to build a ring because we got there and there was no floor to the ring. So him and I traveled around for 4 days looking for plywood. And but yeah, we were one of the first wrestling groups to go over there. And I want to say it was right after 9/11. So I want to say 2002 is when we went over there and we hung out with the prince for 8 days. It was pretty cool, man. A lot of people were telling me, man, I can't believe you're going to Saudi Arabia and after all that 9/11. But, at the end of the day, you don't get opportunities like that, but once in a lifetime. So I jumped on it like a, crazy idiot like I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome to say. Obviously, if you came back from it, so it's pretty awesome. You did it.
Yeah. Listen, there was 2 days there where I was driving around with a handler. I don't know, probably doing 105 miles an hour around the roads in Saudi Arabia, and I was literally saying to myself driving down the road, this guy right now could just pull out a 9mm and just shoot me in the temple and bury me in the middle of the desert. And no one would ever ever know. So, but those thoughts kind of entered my mind a couple times throughout the day, but we just kept on grinding, man. We had 4 really, really good days of wrestling over there. We put 4 good shows on, and it was pretty awesome. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, pretty cool. So you did it, and I didn't know they had much wrestling in Aruba either. So man, that's cool.
Well, again, I think that was Steve Kern. It was a Steve Kern, and I think it was Howard Franklin Jr. They put that show together, and we went over there and we did some stuff for. I want to say maybe one of the. I don't know. I don't even remember, but I just know I was over there for 3 days, 4 days, 3 days of wrestling, and it was. I don't know if you've ever been around a bunch of wrestlers for 3 or 4 days, but it's just a big party, man. That's all it is. We have fun.
Yep.
We work hard. We play hard. So yeah, it was fun.
And Aruba's nice. I mean, the weather's always great.
Listen, I ain't gonna lie to you. Everyone says that. I live in Florida, so
Yeah.
The weather's here is always nice.
Yeah.
That's a rock in the middle of nowhere, dude. And it's just absolutely. There's one side that's tourist, and then there's another side that is absolutely almost poverty stricken. It's really sad, but it's just reality. But some of the best fishing in the world is in Aruba, so we got to go fishing a couple of times. That was nice.
Nice. Now, when you got into, let's say, WWF, like you said, you did enhancement matches, God, for decades, right? I mean, basically 20 years. How did you get in there, like, originally? How did you, like, your foot get?
Well, I was trained by Jimmy Del Rey, Jimmy Backlund, back in '91, and he left and went to Smoky Mountain, and I think I only went to like 6 sessions, so I think I might have went to wrestling school for maybe at the most 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I got in a big argument with Larry Sharp because I didn't know who he was. And he walked into the sportatorium in Tampa and he started screaming and yelling. And, we were just goofing off before practice. And I was sitting at the podium where Gordon Soley used to always sit. And I was commentating a match or something like that. And he started screaming at me. And I didn't know who he was. So I just started screaming back at him. And he said, well, you can get your shit and get out of here. I said, you don't have to tell me twice. So I got my shit up and left and kind of just, started grinding on independent stuff. And, Jimmy would come in every once in a while. And when he came in, him and I became, really decent friends and good friends. And he was, he had just signed, I want to say probably in 93. Yeah, probably 92. I think they did their spot in 92 and they were still with Smoky Mountain. And then 93, I think they signed contracts. And then about 93, I think it was, I went up and started doing, he had the book in Florida. So he would bring up guys from Florida to do enhancement work. And it was kind of cool because, back then we used to get on a plane with those guys and we traveled everywhere with them. We got a car just like they did. We stayed in nice hotels just like they did. And we got paid every night. So it was, it was a pretty cool gimmick. It was fun. You'd go to Monday Night Raw back in, 94. And those guys were getting, $100, $200 draw because on Monday night on the live televisions, they didn't make no money. So they used to have to get little $100 draws, $200 draws. And I used to say, man, I'm making more money than these guys on a given night. And, but then, of course, you always want to try to get the contract so you can make, a little more money than, $250, $500 a night. But, it was fun. And Jimmy got me up there and got me interested, got me started in it. And I don't know if I had to do it all over again. I don't know if I would go do that because I think it kind of put a label on me for a long time. I took pride in my work. I try to take good bumps and try to be able to work with everybody. And, those guys that are up there making, contract money and they see a guy that can come in and work, they're not going to really try to say, hey, we think maybe this guy might want to, bring him onto the roster. Well, hell no, they're going to keep me, somewhere in the, behind the sheets and just kind of, but it is what it is, man, but I had fun. I'm a poor kid from Port Tampa, Florida, and I got to travel the world, so I can't complain.
Nice. Now you mean like label you as like, oh, he loses all the time. This guy's the enhancement guy.
Yeah. I think I'm one of the very few guys that worked enhancement work that actually got to go over. I got one win to my credit for working for WWF, WWE at the time, and just everybody knows that when you walk out through the curtain, it was really not very many times in my career with them did I ever really get competitive matches, but it was fine. I mean, I go out there, I work 3, 4, 5 minutes, get my money, go to the next town, and never, never went into business for myself. Never tried to buck the system or anything like that. I just went out there and did my job, and that's why they kept me around for 20 years.
When you do that initially, like with Jimmy, does he have to say, like, this guy, I trained this guy, you're going to use him, or do you have to wrestle? They have to see you, and then
Oh, well, yeah. I'll tell you a story. Killer Kowalski was the first night I was there. He got all the enhancement guys together because I guess he used to run a school up in Boston, and he got all the enhancement guys together. And he said, all right, everybody, we're going to meet out by the ring, and we're going to see how you guys run and hit the ropes. I've been playing sports all my life, and if there's one thing I could do, and I think I did it a little bit different than everybody else. I kind of hit the ropes like Dusty Rhodes or like Scott Hall and stuff like that. I hit it on the side. I didn't hit it on my back. Hit it on my back just didn't seem right. If you're running into something, why would I turn all the way around and pivot on a foot to land on my back? It just didn't make any sense to me. So I just tried to make it look real, and I kind of hit it on the side with my hip, and make sure I had the rope and everything. And he wasn't a big fan of that. He was like, you got to spin around, you got to hit it with your back, and it just didn't make any sense to me. And I just kind of got out of the ring and walked down and just went to the back. And like I said, I was there for 20 years, so I must have done something right.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
was Jimmy Backlund? How was Jimmy Del Rey?
Jimmy was Jimmy started professional wrestling right when he got out of high school. He went to high school in Plant City, Florida, which is a neighbor for Tampa. And he was a really good amateur wrestler. And he got into it, and he knew Mike Graham real well. And I want to say he knew Eddie at the time because it was like 84 is when he got into professional wrestling. So he was kind of stuck in the old carny business. You know what I mean? He was a good dude, but he was stiff as, can I cuss on this thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was stiff as fuck. I mean, stiff. Like he didn't cut any punches. He just, if he didn't like you, he didn't like you. And if he liked you, he loved you. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, we had our differences, but he was still my friend. And, I got stories forever, for days with him. But, at the end of the day, it's doesn't matter what anybody says about Jimmy. He should still be on this earth. He should have never passed away at such a young age. But he lived life the way he wanted to live, and we all pay consequences when we live that lifestyle.
He was a bit of a partier, from what I've heard. I talk to Dr. Tom all the time, and he
She
was
is
saying
there.
that
Go ahead.
they were great in the ring, and they had awesome chemistry. And the Heavenly Bodies, one of the greatest teams, as far as in ring. But he said outside the ring, they didn't hang out at all.
No. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they drove in a car together. I remember probably the first couple times I went up, him and Chavez used to drive together to Tonka, and Dr. Tom would go with somebody else, and I would be like, well, wait a minute, what's going on with this situation? But they both loved wrestling. Tom just didn't like to party. Tom was all business. But at the end of the day, listen, I hate to tell you this, but wrestling, it's a different era now. But when I first got in the business, I hate to say this, but there was two things that we were going to do. We're either going to fight or we're going to fuck. And that's what we did. We went out,
Yep.
we had fun. We wrestled our asses off. I got the ass end, I think, of the Florida tour territory. And, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would keep my mouth shut a little bit more. But I loved being a professional wrestler. I thought it meant something. I know a lot of people look down on it and stuff like that, but I loved being able to tell people I was a professional wrestler. You know what I mean? And it was a grind because I played football and I played basketball and I played baseball. But this was a grind, and it was a grind every day, every night. So I don't. It's a different era now because the kids, I don't know. I can't. I'm not going to say that they don't do drugs because I don't know what people do in their lives with their lifestyles. But I did drugs. I'm not ashamed to say it. Do I do them now? Absolutely not. But if it wasn't for the drugs, a lot of people wouldn't be able to go to work the next day. And I hate to tell you that, but it's a part of society. It's sad, but it's true fact that, it's not the guys in wrestling don't take the steroids because they want to look good. They take the steroids so they can get up and go to work tomorrow, so they can go to the next town. A lot of them are taking them for therapeutic reasons to heal the injuries that they have, or coming after major back or knee or shoulder or hip surgery. They're doing it so their body can recuperate a little bit faster, so they can go out there and earn a living for their family. So for all you people out there that want to knock wrestling, man, please don't knock it till you tried it, and then once you try it, you'll figure out you'll have a different meaning for it.
And too, the recoveries from injury, right? I mean, a lot of the
Oh,
guys were
absolutely.
taking
I
the
mean,
steroids to get back from the injury.
it's of course, the first thing a doctor wants to prescribe to you is Vicodin or Percocet or something like that to get you through the pain, and then all of a sudden you're really not 100%, but you've been taking Percocets and Vicodin for the last 5 weeks, so you think you can get back in the ring, and you're back in the ring and you're really doing more damage. I wrestled for TNA 10 days after having both my knees scoped. And of course I'm chasing to try to get a contract so I can make some decent money. And I go back into the doctor's office for 2 months later, and he's like, "Dude, I told you not to do it." And I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to not chase it? I mean, because that's the whole thing in life, is to chase to get to the pinnacle, to get to the top." And just 20 years later, I'm having both my knees replaced at 55 years old.
Crazy. So that
Yeah.
actually was a bad idea to get back in the ring.
Yes.
Actually caused you.
Yeah. Not too many people go in and after having both their knees scoped, getting
Yeah,
them all,
crazy.
they usually wait, 6, 12, 18 weeks after they have, two scopes done. But, I mean, that's who I was, I just tried to please people. I did what I love to do. If I had to do it all over again, I'd do the same thing, but I'd probably wait maybe 11 days instead of 10 days.
Now, Jimmy Backlund, Dr. Tom was telling me, I was like, why is he Jimmy Del Rey? And he said, because Stan Lane is from Delray Beach in Florida. So they
Right.
wanted to have Del Rey. I was like, wow, that's an awesome story. I didn't even realize. I never put two and two together.
It was a little rib, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a little stab, and that's just what we do, man. We just rib each other a little bit. Sometimes it gets a little, a little carried, a little too far. But at the end of the day, we're all just out there just trying to have fun and make enough money to go to the next town, have a couple beers, and But no, people didn't understand that when he was called Jimmy Del Rey.
Yeah. Pretty funny rib though. If you really think about it, like, wow, that's great. It's like a nice little jab. Yeah. Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah, listen, there's nobody better than Dr. Tom. I'm a big fan of Dr. Tom Pritchard. If there's anybody that should have stayed with that company, it should have been him. He loves wrestling, and when I mean loves it, he has breathed it, lived it, done it for, I think it's been pretty close to 40 years now. And why he doesn't have a contract with anybody behooves me, because he's a solid person. He's a good guy, got a good sense for the business. He tells good stories. He's got good angles. So whatever company's out there is looking for a good guy that's inside, man, you got to reach out to Dr. Tom for sure.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And you worked, right? You worked the Heavenly Bodies for WWF, right? It was on Raw. You guys
Yep.
worked them?
Yep, we sure did. Yeah. I couldn't tell you who my partner was, but I do remember. I worked them in Smoky Mountain when before they got to Fed. And it's just a night off working those two. And Jimmy, everybody will tell you, Jimmy was one of the softest guys in the business. He could work anybody as well. He's working guys that are 6'6", 300 pounds. And Jimmy will tell you before he started making any money, he'll tell you he was 200 pounds, but Jimmy was never a day over 200 pounds. He was probably 170, 175 at his heaviest when he was here in Florida, but he could work with anybody.
Yeah, he was quite a worker, and obviously the look is great too, because you're saying you're a gigolo, but you're not really good looking. Like, perfect.
No, listen, when the day he would listen, so I saw that hip wiggle that he does many nights at Mac Denton's down there in South Tampa, drinking beer and playing darts with him, and I saw it many nights. And I said, boy, when I saw that on television for the first time, I went up, and there he goes. He's going straight to the moon now. because Vince is a big mark for something that nobody's willing to do. And he laughed at himself more than anybody else ever laughed at him. So that's why he could do stuff like that.
Did you have a good experience working for Vince and for WWF? I know you've been
Mm-hmm.
there forever, but like as far as the guys, like Stephanie or anything like that.
So I don't know if I don't remember the other guys that I did the podcast with, but I don't know if he told you this, but I'll tell you a story about Vince that I told on the other podcast. I'd been with Vince probably for, I don't know, probably 14 years off and on doing enhancement work. And I was out walking from the ring. I was going towards catering, and Vince was walking towards me. And I've never spoken to him before. And I told myself, I said, here's a good opportunity just to introduce yourself, tell him thank you for, all the work he's been giving me, and, kind of, feed my, my family a little bit. And, so I walked up to him and said, hey, Mr. McMahon, I said, just want to introduce myself. He goes, oh, Buck, you don't have to introduce yourself. I know who you are. And it kind of floored me a little bit because, here's a guy that's, sees different people, every night in, night out. He's got, 100 people on payroll. He's got 50 wrestlers on payroll. And for him to speak my name was pretty awesome. Made me feel really appreciated. He never put my work over or anything like that. I never got to go through a gorilla position, with him standing there or him say anything to me when I, went through it or whatever. But, just for him to say, hey, Buck, everything's good, man. I know who you are. Hope everything's okay. And I was really appreciated for that. Now, his employees, not so much. I wasn't a big fan of a lot. Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of the employees. I know there's some really good employees that he has, like agents, but there's a couple of them that I wasn't a big fan of. Pat Patterson was one of them for sure. He embarrassed me in front of my son when my son was about 5 years old. Never forget it ever in my life to the day till I die. Tony Gurria was always my agent. Love him to death. He was a good dude. The guy, Michael Hayes, not a big fan of Michael Hayes. I was there when he was trying to get his job back as talent. I want to say probably 97, maybe 96, 97. And it didn't go over very well. And then they hire him as an agent. I'm like, well, okay, that didn't make any sense, but it is what it is. Just a lot of, here's my thing about WWF compared to other locker rooms that I've been in. This is just my personal opinion and my personal outlook on being in that building. Everybody is aggravated, and it's almost like they're waiting around to get fired. I've never waited around to get fired or cut or thought I was the worst guy on the roster or whatever on anything I've ever done in my life, ever. Didn't matter whether I was in enhancement work or whether I was standing there looking at the monitor with Steve Austin or talking to Cactus Jack. Not to say that I was ever the best, but I never thought any of them were any better than me. And I just didn't. It was the tension that was in that locker room was always so high. There was no camaraderie at all there. There was no team in there. And I get it, man. It's professional sports. I get it. Everyone's trying to jockey themselves in different positions. And I don't know. I don't know if that's that. Thank God. I don't know. Thank God. Maybe not. Thank God. But I'm happy with where my life went. I did 32 years. I did wrestling. I got a lot out of it. I was a poor kid from Tampa. I would have never got to see the world. I got to meet some of my heroes. Dusty Rhodes, I got to wrestle in 2005. I got to hang out with Steve Kern every 3 or 4 months. What more could a kid from Tampa, want in his life? I've lived a pretty good life, so I got no complaints. But the people, back to the people for Vince, not a big fan of it. It's just, and it's sad with everything that's happening in the last, 3 or 4 months. It's going down, but it's just not good business at the end of the day.
Now, what was Pat Patterson's problem? Why is he being such?
Well, I don't know if it was in between one of his relationship issues or whatever. But I was standing there and I was getting ready to take a picture with Mark Henry, and this was in 2003. 98. Nope, I take that back. This is like 90, 96, 97. And we were in Tampa, and Mark Henry was there. And I said, hey, Mark, do you think my son could get a picture with you? And he says, absolutely, Buck, anything for you, whatever you need. So Mark's got my son, and my son's, I say he's probably 6 or 7, maybe 8 years old. And he's got him in his arm, and he's, as big as Mark Henry is, he's literally engulfed him. And Pat Patterson walks right in front of me and turns and looks at me and says, you're not allowed to take pictures back here. And I was like, Pax, I said, I don't know if you don't know who I am, but I'm one of the talent. He goes, I don't give a damn who you are. No one's allowed to take pictures back here. And I looked at him, and I was just so engulfed with anger and rage that a man would do that to me in front of my son like that. I always tell myself I should have punched him right in his mouth. Maybe I would have got a job, but I didn't. I said, Mark, I appreciate it. Grabbed my son, took him to the, somewhere secluded, and I called his mom and told his mom to come get him. And I just did my job that night, and it's always stuck with me. There was so much hatred in that man, so much anger. I just didn't understand. He's one of the greatest wrestlers, greatest wrestling minds ever in the industry, and he just was miserable. Fuck. And I didn't get that, man. I really didn't get that, So that's my story with Pat Patterson.
When you look at like the positives, like you were saying, like Grillo was good, you liked it. You did get a win, right, in the dark match of Royal Rumble.
I got a win against Brawler in my hometown in Tampa at USF, and there's the youngest one right there walking up the stairs. That's Mr. Trey Adams right there. Wave to everybody, Trevo. Attaboy. That's Brian Adams' youngest son right there that just walked up the stairs.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yes. Unfortunately, he passed away, but yeah. So, Brook and Brawler, they called me up, and of course, I wasn't the first guy they chose that night for the dark match. Somebody else didn't. Matter of fact, it wasn't somebody else. It was Mark Starr. I guess they weren't going to pay him enough money, so Jimmy called me and said, "Hey, do you want to do it?" I said, "Hell yeah, I want to do it." I said, "What time you want me at the building?" He said, "Get here about 4:00. I got there at 1:30.
Nice, yeah.
And I sat in the hallway all day, just waiting. Didn't even. This was early. I probably maybe done 4 or 5 dark matches, and I was kind of, not to say that I was green, but I was green. And I'll never forget. Brawler asked me, he says, "Hey, can you give me a body slam off the top rope?" He says, "You know how to do that?" I looked at him. I went, "Really? Did you just ask me that question?" He says, "Yeah, I got to make sure that you're safe." Like, I don't think I'd be here if I wasn't safe. He just kind of went, "Oh, okay, that's good." So we had, it was a good match. It was 5-6 minutes, dark match. Went out there and beat me up a little bit. I got a little comeback and put me over, and that was that was my win for WWF.
Were you shocked you were getting the win?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially walking in that place and being, and here's the funny thing about my career. So I didn't get the whole trying to put yourself over or making up your own ideas of how you can enhance your gimmick or whatever. I was an athlete. I just went out there and performed and tried to do what I could do and wrestled the best of my ability. I didn't know that I was supposed to try to come up with my own gimmick. Like I said, I'd only been to wrestling school 6 or 7 times, and Jimmy left and hauled tail and went up to Smoky Mountains, and I went up there, and Jimmy's trying to make a livelihood for himself. He wasn't going to say anything, trying to get me a job up there. But at the end of the day, I say this all the time. I had a great career, and a lot of people did some things for me, but no one ever opened a door for me. No one just said, "Hey, here's an opportunity for you here. Do you want to go do this?" Or, "Hey, here, do you want to go up to Smoky Mountain for 6 weeks and run a loop up there with them?" I got to go up there and do enhancement work and work the Moondogs and, a bunch of other guys. And it was just, I'm not complaining about it, but it would have been nice if somebody would have said, "Hey, man, this is when Chris Jericho and a couple of the other guys were up there. And, I think I could have fit in real well with those guys. Al Snow and
Lance Storm.
Lance Storm, absolutely. That was during their time, and I never got to wrestle any of those guys. I mean, I didn't know how to wrestle. I wasn't a wrestler. I was a football, baseball, and basketball player. But I could get in there and fake it enough. You know what I mean? I could get out of holds. I didn't know a lot of holds, but I could get out of it, make it look real. And then, eventually I took over took the Quartermain off and I became Buck Q, which is pretty cool. It kind of sounds like fuck you. And it's kind of like, it's kind of like my personality when I got, when I turned about 32 years old, I just didn't really give a shit anymore. I just wanted to wrestle and have fun. And it kind of worked for me. I had long hair, had hair down the middle of my back, and I was playing a lot of softball. And one day I showed up at a softball game. I have no hair. They're like, what the hell happened to you? I said, man, I just shaved it all off. And a buddy of mine called me out of retirement, like 99, I think it was, Chris Nelson, to come over and do some stuff over in New Galley. And we went over there and we ran that loop for about 19 months. We started our building over there, John. We started with 50 people in it. 18 months later, they called the fire marshal in there because we had too many people in there.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the better runs I had in my professional career. It was small, We had TV. They ended up getting a public access station over there, and we were going out to about 250,000 people a week. So it was kind of cool. It was a little, it was my little 15 seconds of fame. But that's kind of what made me really kind of popular in Florida at the time. But it's wrestling. You either broke or you're making a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. When you look at it, like obviously you're in Florida a lot, right? I mean, like as far as wrestling, is that why WCW? Why you did so many matches for them? You're like in Orlando, you're in Florida. They catch your, or is that because of Dusty, or how come so many? How'd you get WCW?
WCW, I got up there. Well, see, here's the thing is, so I did enhancement work for WWF, WWE from 93, 93, 94, 95, 96. And Vader was in WCW. And I went there one time and I watched him beat up Chris Nelson one night, enhancement, and we were in Atlanta. And I said, there ain't no fucking way that I'm going to go up here and wrestle it and get $150 to drive all the way up to Atlanta and get my ass handed to me the way he just got beat up. So I didn't work. So when he left to go to WWF in 97, I went to WCW because I wasn't, listen, I may be dumb, but I ain't stupid. So I kind of ran away from him because, I mean, I'm not into getting punched in the face for free, and letting, giving somebody my body and my face. I mean, if you want to fight, I'll fight you. I don't give a shit how big you are. But I'm not going to just give you my face and let you punch me in the face like you did a bunch of enhancement work, guys. And, at the end of the day, karma's a bitch. And, I hate to talk about a dead person, I guess I can say about both of them because both of them have passed. But karma came around and got his ass and bit him right in the ass because Paul beat his ass in the fucking locker room. And, you just, at the end of the day, there's always somebody tougher than you,
Yep.
At the end of the day. And it just, his shit ran thin and it caught up to him. And, I was there the day that Orndorff beat up Vader. And I was one of the guys that was going, that's good shit right there. That's payback for all the guys that he wasn't safe with, and it just, I don't know. You don't have to be a bully in this business. You can, and shit, it'll catch up to you because there's always somebody tougher. If I wanted to be, go ahead.
I was going to say with the shower shoes on, right?
Right. No, a pair of flip flops, the ones that go between your toes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
And they weren't expensive ones. They were like literally shower shoes for sure. I think he had a tank top on and a pair of running shorts, and wore his ass out that day. And Vader, has done many podcasts that said that it didn't really go that way, but there was 50 people in that locker room that sat down at the end of the hall and they listened to it, and he didn't slip and fall. That's for damn sure.
Orndorff and Kevin Sullivan told me the same thing. He's not a guy to be messed with. He might be smaller, maybe height-wise. I mean, he's not small, but smaller than Vader or smaller than some of the big guys. He said he's one guy he would never mess with. He's like literally nuts. Like
growing up in Tampa, he was from Brandon, which is another little neighbor to Tampa. They didn't call him Brandon's bad boy for no reason at all. I mean, he was a tough son of a bitch, man. I mean, he was a legit fighter. I mean, there was a lot of guys in the wrestling industry at that time in the 70s and the 80s that wouldn't fuck with Paul Orndorff. And, and me being from, Tampa, I took pride in all the guys that came from Tampa that were badasses, like the Dick Slaters and, of course, Paul Orndorff, all those guys. Not to say that I was a tough guy, but I mean, I wasn't going to let you it wasn't going to be an easy win with me. You know what I mean? I was going to fight you. I don't have a problem with taking an ass whooping back then. I got beat up many times, but it wasn't going to be an easy win for you. You know what I mean?
Who paid better, WWF or WCW?
Oh, WWF for sure. We got paid nightly for WWF. I don't remember what his name was, but he was one of the brothers. He would walk around with a Halliburton briefcase, and it was loaded with money. We always used to say, boy, we ought to just rob that son of a bitch tonight and take our money. We won't ever get to wrestle again, but we ought to just take his money. And they would pay us nightly. And WCW had to drive from Tampa to Atlanta. It took 9 hours, and we would leave at 5 o'clock in the morning. We would get there like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We would wrestle. About half the time we would drive straight back. So it was like a 27-hour round trip. And sometimes we'd stay at the dungeon, the Days Inn that, so famous. But WCW was, all the money was going to the talent. I mean, the enhancement guys. It was $150, and you had to wait 6 weeks to get your paycheck. And it was a check. And come on, you can't pay us cash, dude. You're owned by one of the biggest billionaires at that time,
Yeah, crazy. So this is at Center Stage in Atlanta. You'd also probably do the tapings in MGM, right? For
I only did. I don't think I did a lot of tapings at MGM. I probably did 5 or 6 of them over there. I tell you a story. One of the times I was there, we stayed at the hotel, and we got up in the morning, and we're sitting at the, everyone meets down in the lobby to get on the caravans to go to the studio. And I'll never forget this in my entire life. Him and Steve Austin and Brian Pillman were sitting at a table right next to us. And, Steve was not happy at all. So it wasn't hard to hear his conversation talking to Brian. And he was like, God damn it, I can't believe this fucking place making $600 fucking dollars a week, and we're the U.S. tag holders. God damn it, this fucking sucks. And he was just miserable. And I was like, $600 fucking dollars? Shit, I can go home and make that in a day in the pool industry. You know what I mean? And he's making $600 a week. I'm thinking, how in the hell can you survive on $600 a week when you got to pay for your own trans and you got to pay for your own food? I mean, I was like, holy shit, these guys are starving them, and it was kind of an eye-opening experience listening to that. And then lo and behold, he ends up becoming one of the, most influential wrestlers in wrestling history. Ended up selling more merchandise than anybody combined, all of them to get together. And I was really happy for Steve. I don't know if he knows who the hell I am. I've had some conversations with him, man, but he was a solid man. He was a good dude.
Crazy that he's not getting paid right at that point now, and then you look at a couple of years later, it's the biggest star in the industry. Crazy.
Exactly. It's kind of funny how things just go full circle. It's one day like he says, he talks about it, eating potatoes and tuna fish, and the tuna fish ran out, so he just started eating potatoes for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and making $40 a night driving. All that Memphis loop was no joke. Sometimes you had to drive 600-700 miles to go to the next town. And, he was, he held firm with his beliefs and went and did his thing. And, he's a testament to the industry. You just stay firm and do what you think what you're good at, and just go out there and do it. And, if they don't like it, they don't like it. If they do, you'll make a lot of money.
Hey, you mentioned ECW before. How'd you start working for them? I guess it's their Florida loop, but how does that happen? How'd you start working for them?
I don't know. I mean, this was like 99, 2000. So I was in good shape. Working Florida a lot. I was the NWA heavyweight title holder for, I like to claim that I held the title longer than anybody else in the state of Florida history. I held it for 5 years. A lot of that was inactive, but I held it because there wasn't a territory for us to run. But I mean, I would, wrestle wherever, and I would put it up for title defense, and I held it for 5 years. But I don't really know. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you that. But I know I got. Oh, Fonzie called me up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in working 3 nights when we come into town?" And this is probably a month because when they started their television, they used to come on in Tampa like at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning with some of their stuff from Philadelphia. And so it was kind of popular here in Tampa. We loved it. I worked for a small independent company, IPW, and we kind of shaded off a little bit of their stuff. We had some hardcore stuff. We had some really good wrestlers, and everybody was kind of leaning towards that. I don't want to say X-rated wrestling, but risque kind of wrestling. It was kind of on the edge and stuff like that. So, but Fonzie called me and said, "Hey man, would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely, dude." He says, "We'll meet me in Sarasota." So, of course, I'm there 4 or 5 hours before I'm supposed to be there, and I'm just sitting in the parking lot, and big old truck for the ring shows up. And lo and behold, who gets out of it? It's Tommy Dreamer. So I walk over and introduce myself. They're setting up the ring, and him and I are sitting out in the sun in a pair of shorts and took our shirts off, and we're just hanging out, talking. And he says, "Would you be interested in maybe just jumping in there and rolling around with a couple of the guys that travel around with us that are the first matches?" And I said, "Absolutely, man. Whatever you need." So I put my gear on, geared up, and got in there, and I wrestled for I don't know, probably 30, 40 minutes with a couple. I worked with a girl and I worked with a guy. Couldn't tell you who they were. One of the girls became a diva for WWF or WWE. And the guy, I think he stayed up in Philadelphia and had a successful career. But I'm walking after the 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I'm walking back to the locker room, and Tommy goes, "You want to work tonight?" I said, "Fuck yeah, I want to work tonight. Of course, that's what I came here for." And he goes, "Okay, you got Nova 3 nights in a row." I was like, "Wow, that's pretty awesome." So I never knew who Nova was, and I walked in and introduced myself, and we had three awesome matches. It was nice. It was good. I enjoyed that. So I got to work with them, I think 2 other times. So I think I worked with them on 3 loops. But yeah, it was fun. It was, I thought, of course, every time I got to work, not just go out there and look up at the ceiling. Every time I got to work, I thought I was going to get a contract somewhere. But it, wasn't in the cards for me. But I still worked hard and, didn't have a problem with putting anybody over, and never bitched and moaned if I didn't get put over. So,
Did they ever say anything like, "Hey, we're going to keep you on at ECW"? It was just one of those things for the loop, and then they moved on?
it was just a loop thing. Of course you hear rumors and stuff like that. You heard that a lot of the guys coming down from Florida weren't really getting paid at the time. And,
yeah,
as a matter of fact, I don't even think I even made any money, dude. I think I did it for free just because I wanted to work for ECW and wanted to be in the locker room. The locker room was phenomenal. I mean, you had New Jack, you had Taz, you had Sabu, you had RVD. You got Hall of Fame wrestlers in there at that time that are just out there grinding. And speaking of eating potatoes, I'm sure a lot of those guys were eating just potatoes and tuna fish. You know what I mean? And that was up until that time was probably the best locker room I'd ever been in, bar none. It was just a bunch of guys out there working their tails off, man, just taking bumps and telling stories. And it was a lot of fun.
Did you know RVD from his Florida days in
I
the
did
early
know
'90s
RVD.
for ICWA, like Slinker and stuff?
Yeah. I got a bad. I don't know if I got a bad name on my head or something like that, but supposedly he thought I was messing with his old lady when he was on a loop and stuff like that. And she was I worked at a gentleman's club in town called Mons Venus, and she was a bartender there, and we became friends. And for some reason, I guess he didn't like that. Unfortunately, there was a couple words said, but no, I got nothing but respect for RVD. He's worked his ass off, to make a name for himself in this business, and it's a really powerful name, But RV, if you're out there, man, peace. Hope there's no lost love.
Now, as far as TNA is concerned, I feel like you worked for them a bunch, but not a contract. It seemed like you were working for them so much. It was like, hey, he's got to be under some sort of contract.
So I don't remember the guy's name. He was looked like a little Samoan, not a little Samoan, but he was a big 5'11", 6 foot Samoan kid. I couldn't tell you what his name was, but we were sitting at catering, me and Lex, one day. And we kind of, I'm not saying that we started a fad up there, but, my thing is if you dress to impress, you impress. So I told Wayne, I said, we're going to start going up there and we're going to wear, a nice shirt and a pair of slacks and some dress shoes. And we're going to walk in the locker room. We're going to look like we're professional. We're a tag team, and this is what we're going to do. And we started doing that. Guys would show up to the building in a pair of shorts and flip-flops and tank tops and stuff like that. So we just try to be a little more professional and a little more business when we went there. And it kind of rubbed off a little bit. And I'll never forget sitting at caterer with this guy, a couple of guys, and they were like, damn, goddamn guys getting dark matches are getting more TV time than we are. And we're on contract. And I just sat there and I kind of just chuckled a little bit. I was like, damn, I guess we ain't doing too many things wrong because we're working, right. We worked. We got to work. We didn't just go out there and lay down. I had good matches with DDP and X-Pac. I had good matches with the hell's his name?
AJ Styles.
James. James, and of course the Naturals. We had. I could have thought we were going to get signed when we worked the Naturals. We worked them 3 or 4 different times. Worked the guys that used to come out in cowboy hats and used to drink all the time. What the hell were they?
AMW, James Storm, and Chris Harris.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Those guys were good people, man. Now that, bar none, other than my IPW locker room and the independent scene, TNA was a solid locker room. Yeah, it was good. I got nothing bad to say about the TNA locker room.
You and Lex Lovett obviously were teaming for a while. It seemed like they were going to give you, I don't know if it was going to be Johnny Fairplay, but some sort of manager or some sort of gimmick. What went down there? How come that didn't kind of pan
So I'll tell you what happened with that whole situation. We were going to be, Dusty pitched an angle with those guys. And I want to say A&W had the straps. And the angle was, here we were going to have Johnny Fairplay come in with a bunch of guys that were kind of local, struggling to get a contract. They weren't on a contract. What they were going to do is we were going to go work a match with them. They were going to drop the straps to the non-contract wrestlers. And we'd come back on a pay-per-view and we would drop the straps back to them. And this was when Dusty had the book. And obviously because Dusty had the book, Dusty liked me and, Wayne a lot. And he pitched it to the table, and Jeff Jarrett shot it down. He says, why would we put 2 enhancement guys over? He says, because it's good television. It would be a good angle. I still think to this day it would be a really good angle if you did something like that. But,
definitely.
It just got shot down, and needless to say, we all used to have a meeting before the show, and everybody was invited to the meeting so we could hear what was going on. And we always got asked to go in. And last time I was there, they asked us, you and Wayne, you guys got to get out. Left everybody else, but we had to get out. And I looked at Wayne and said, I'm going home, dude. They said, what do you mean? You're not going to stick around and see if we work? I said, nope, I'm out of here.
Wow.
Packed my shit up and fucking got in my car and I hauled ass and went home. I knew where my ship was sailing. I wasn't going to stick around and, have somebody drop a weight on it to sink it. It was already sinking. I got it.
Yeah, but, once they don't let you into the production meetings. Come on.
That's, it's a telltale sign that, basically we don't want you here, so get the fuck out.
Yeah.
So.
What was the relationship like with Dusty, though? Because it seems like you guys were pretty good.
No, I guess Dusty was in between contracts with WCW and WWF, and he opened up a little company in town in Florida. He ran 4 or 5 different towns, and he was really good friends with Howard Brody. And Howard Brody obviously had the NWA spot here in Florida. And I guess people want to say I was this guy. So, obviously that must have been because I carried the belt for 5 years. I did some stuff with, Dusty. He would call me up and Howard would get a hold of me and tell me, hey, Dusty's working here, 3 or 4 night loop. Do you want to do it? Of course. Absolutely. I would have done anything in the world for that man. He was, not only was it, an idol of mine, growing up as a kid watching him wrestle. But I mean, I just liked being around him. He was someone kind of special just to be hanging out with. A little aura around him, you know what I mean? Growing up, watching him in the 70s, it was kind of cool to be sitting there with the guy that you watched when you were 5 or 6, come down and save the day at the world, at the armory and stuff like that. So, yep. But yeah, he kind of took a liking to me. He used to, Bucky, baby, you're going to drop that leg off the top rope tonight for me, baby. Go in there and give me 15 to 17, baby. That's all I need. I don't need any more than that, baby. Just 15 to 17. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Whatever you need. So I'll tell you a story about Dusty, and this goes back to the TNA spot. And it's when he had the book. I think they're doing the pay-per-view where they do all matches are in cage, engulfed in a cage. So, of course, I'm thinking, man, this is going to be a good night because there's going to be a lot of color. And I was kind of queer for color. I like to get color a lot, especially if it meant something.
Right.
So Lex and we got pay-per-view, one of the biggest pay-per-views they ever had. We get the dark match. So Dusty pulls me aside and says, baby, I got a favor to ask for you. I said, what do you need, Dusty? He goes, I need you to get color on the dark match. I went, you need me to do what? He goes, I need you to get color just before it goes off the air to go into live pay-per-view. I said, Dusty, it's the first match and you want me to get color? He goes, baby, I can get somebody else to do it. I said, no, sir, I got it. I got you. So I didn't. That was the end of our conversation right there. I said, I got it. I'll take care of it for you. So I'll never forget. I was sitting in the locker room and I was putting my gear on and I was getting all gimmicked up and stuff like that. I had one of the guys go, what the fuck are you doing? He goes, you're not. I said, yes, I am. He says, first fucking match. I said, yes, I am. He said, I can't fucking believe this is fucking ridiculous. I said, well, every match is in a fucking cage tonight. So what the fuck does it matter whether it's the first match or the fucking 9th match? And I went out there and I got fucking, Kizaller and come walking back through the tunnel. And man, I didn't have one fucking person tell me good job.
Wow.
It was a strange evening, but listen, when the boss tells you, hey man, I need you to go out there and give me 37 seconds like I did with Christopher Daniels. No one said shit to me when I went out there and worked for him, put him over in 37 fucking seconds. So when the boss tells me, hey, man, I need you to fucking go out there and do what you need to do, I went out there and did what I needed to do. And I got a bunch of shit. X-Pac was like, I can't fucking believe you're doing that in the first fucking match. Well, fuck you. How about that? You're over here fucking making $200,000 a year, and I'm over here trying to make fucking $400 a day. So eat shit and fucking die. How about that?
Why did he want blood, though? Is it like to get people enticed?
Well, to get people fired up for the pay-per-view. You know what I mean? I mean, you're sitting there and you're watching something for free, and then all of a sudden you see this, oh my God, I came up into the camera right in front of the hard camera, and I got hit with the chair, and I come up, and I got it running down my face. And it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like I was engulfing, but I mean, you could see the color coming down a little bit because I just started it. And, he thought maybe it would get everybody fired up to watch the pay-per-view because every match was in a cage.
Right.
And where I come from, if you're working a fucking cage, you're supposed to get color. I'm sorry, but that's just, you're supposed to use the cage as a form of offense to wear out your opponent.
Right.
Yes,
makes sense.
A lot of the guys didn't get the memo for that because not all the matches had color. Maybe they were told not to get color. Maybe they didn't want to get color. But I knew guys that went through their whole career that didn't want to get color. And I'm like, well, then what the fuck did you get in the wrestling business for? Because that's how you blow off an angle. You get in a fucking cage and you wrestle.
Yep.
Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, somebody please tell me I'm wrong. But that's how you blow off your angle. You get in a big cage because you've been screwed or he's been screwed or you've been screwing. The manager's been screwing. Somebody's been screwing somebody. And you got to cage it all in. I mean, I didn't get that, but, I took my heat, put my, my tail between my legs as I walked back to the locker room, cleaned my shit up, put my fucking slacks and my dress shirt on, and I went out and probably had 10 fucking drinks that night and had a good night. So that's what.
Was Dusty happy with you? That's the only thing
yes,
that matters.
Was. He said, baby, that's a good job, baby. That's a real good job. And I just kept on walking, kept on moving, so, when the boss tells you, go ahead.
That's all that matters. He liked it. That's
No,
all.
100%. I mean, shit, if you know, like I said, I went out like when I tell you 37 seconds, that's how long the match was with Christopher Daniels. It was 37 fucking seconds, and I had 27 of the 37. So, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But
Yep.
you know, nobody was bitching about, well, goddamn, that was a quick 37-second match. Well, but it made sense. You know, it makes sense if you're wrestling in a cage to get.
Yep. Now, as we wind it down, really, we hit the finish. When somebody says Buck Quartermain, when they're looking back, how do you want to be remembered in the business? Because literally, you worked for TNA, ECW,
Yeah.
WCW, WWF, Smoky Mountain. It's like every big promotion you worked there. So, how do you want to be kind of remembered?
Just a hustler, a worker, a grinder, a guy that could work anybody. You know, guys that were 6'6", 300, or a guy that weighed 140 pounds. Both heel, both baby face. I just maybe I'm going to take a quote from Bret Hart that he told me a long time ago. I was never greedy for money, but I was always greedy for respect. Hopefully, I got everybody's respect when I walked in the locker room. That's what I hope.
Good line. I like that. Anything up next as far as anything wrestling related you'll be doing? Like, will you be doing anything?
No, like I said, I'm with Brian's past wife. So I got one that's in the house still that's wrestling. So I think he's on the show with Brian Brock and Bruce Santee. I think he's on this show on May 14th or something like that. I think it is. Don't quote me on that, but I'll go watch that. And, I probably go to maybe 2 or 3 shows a year because he's wrestling. But, I just, it's like I said at the beginning of the show, it's an addiction for me. So if I'm around it, I'm going to do it. So
Right. Yep.
It's hard for me to be around it because, at 56 years old, I still think I can get out there and give you one more good match. But what the hell is one more good match going to do me? My ego has gone a long time ago. I don't need no more fixes for my ego.
I got you. Yep. Now, is there anything like at social media that people could follow you, or do you do any of that?
No, I try to listen. I'm not listen. You saw earlier. I couldn't even get my damn volume to work on my computer. Shit, you're trying to talk about getting a social media. Man, listen, I'm still stuck in the chat rooms and shit. Still, man. No, I listen. I do my own little thing. I like to think I'm a little different than the average professional wrestler. I learned a trade a long time ago before I got into wrestling. So I never needed wrestling. I don't try to identify myself as Iceman, Buck Q, or anything like that. I'm just Paul Jason Sequin from a single mother and just a grinder. And I like what I'm doing. I love my wife. I love my 3 kids. I love all my friends. I live a great life. I'm very blessed. I can't ask for anything better than that. I would like to say one thing for everybody out there that's watching. Brian Adams for the Hall of Fame, for sure. 4 WrestleManias, 20-year career, and for some reason it gets overshadowed. But again, Brian Adams for Hall of Fame one of these days for sure.
Totally agree.
Yep.
Buck, thank you so much for all the
man.
time today. Really appreciate it.
No, pleasure's all mine. And deuces, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you all had a great time, and hope to see you soon.
Perfect. That's right.